Welcome to this special episode of Radio with Pictures in the Field. I'm Susan Gray, and I'm here at the Tanoa Plaza for Family Pacific Second National Consultation for 2019. These past 3 days, we've been having some interesting discussions on women's peace and human security priorities. Sitting with me in this space and in this particular room are women leaders that are representative of the various divisions in Fiji. And in a 3-part series, we will be recapping some of those discussions. In this particular episode, we will be looking at women in leadership. Here with me in this episode, we have some of our rural women leaders, as I've just mentioned. We have Bonita Gio, the Executive Director of PRAN, based in the West. We have Lina Reddy from Korodiri Women's Group, based in Nausori. We have Andy Makitalena from Nalemba Multiracial Women's Group from the North. And then we have also Jaina Silasila, Family Pacific's broadcaster, and a member of Youth Jams, Mental Health, and a representative of Persons with Disability Network in the North. We also have here Sapedi, who's the secretary of Koronumbu Youth Club Bar. How's everyone feeling today?
Very excited.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Bonita. Bonita, you know, we had a bit of a discussion outside and so on. There was some real, serious issues that were coming up. There was also some issues that we're talking about, strengthening, amplifying voices at the local level. I'm just wondering, just from your perspective, what would be your main takeaway?
I think as for me, for a person that have started in the movement and have come to a particular stage now, that we could clearly describe the meaning of empowerment and how empowerment have been like for us at Family. And just reflecting on the first suitcase radio, the first story of that first woman that was carried on the suitcase came over the mountain, over the cane fields, and to where we are sitting today. And that is amplifying the voice from the ground. The language does not change, and that is what's significant about this national consultation, and that when we are coming here, we are talking about what's really coming up from the ground and amplifying this more further up into all spaces.
That's right. And when you talk about amplifying, and it's there's discussions in various space, amplifying, and there's also that other question, so what? But we amplify because we want to influence, and also we're trying to pursue transformative change. Lina, what would be your takeaway?
For me, since I have been attending from Monday, yesterday was the really good topics which we covered. It was on domestic violence and violence against women. And I just saw that most of the women felt free to share their personal experience which they have experienced in their life. And they have shared it with us women where they felt that it's really safe for them to share it with us, their personal problems. And for me, as a young woman, it was really heart-touching that for me, I haven't experienced such kind of violence with myself, but when I heard other women with yesterday that they were sharing, even today in the morning, they shared their views. It was really heart-touching for me, which I think it was really encouraging for me as a young woman to hear all that from the women from other places.
Thank you, Lina. Yes, because it's also, the discussion that also went around the table was, it's everybody's business. How could you also look out for another woman, a member in your community, and so forth? And all this is also about influencing and also empowering each other. And we've had sisters that are here in this space that shared that yesterday and also this morning. So that was very powerful. And Auntie Makitalena, what would be your takeaway from the North?
Thank you. Coming up to the grassroots level, to this standard of national consultation, what Bonita has already mentioned. And it is very powerful, and the women are very strong enough to stand in the spaces given to share the stories. And it's we become strong enough to step forward when we go back to the village. Personally, in the village, in the community, there is a violence going in the community, but they are silent. They can't come out of that because because of the less of the education has been done, and also the awareness about inclusive of men and boys. Because like in this national consultation, I always take back in other communities that what we have been sharing here. And it's very powerful to me. It's very powerful, and mostly it's like we are climbing up the mountains. Sometimes when we go and you come in the first step and they push you back, you don't have to stop. You keep on climbing. You keep on climbing. Like the encouragement we have in this platform in FamilyLink.
Thank you, Auntie Makitalena. And yes, and this is talking again about information sharing, the access to resources, knowledge about services that are there, knowledge too about the toll-free number that the Fiji Women's Crisis Center also has, 1560-1560, and so on. So all that information sharing that you also can take back to your communities or the organizations that you represent. Sapedi, sorry, what would be your takeaway on this?
Being given this platform and being with aged women, given the space, it's a privilege to be here. Making use of the intergenerational gap and being able to be empowered with women leaders from different societies, different communities, and it's really an empowerment. It's like a tool that helps young women to face the new generation and how to overcome these barriers. We've been talking about from the past 2 days, and it's actually an empowerment. That's a takeaway for me. And also the use of journals for, like, some women have received journals and they've been using it. But like for this generation, the youth, and we are more into social media. And I have found the usefulness of journals, and not just the book there, but listening from rural women leaders, their stories and what all they use and they do, they all put it in the Red Book. And that's actually, and when they go back and see the amount of work they do, it's really an achievement for them. And it's something for us too, for me especially, young women. I feel that it's something that I would use journal, and it's hearing their stories, and we could use that strategies, the way they use to overcome problems and barriers, and it's actually, it's a good
right. Yeah, maybe, thank you, Sapedi. The journals, that Red Book that members of the FamilyLink Pacific Network have to document, record their lives and so forth. And the sharing of stories in those journals, that was just so powerful on day 2. And a lot of you are members of various organizations, and how you've basically taken that across. So there's also all that aspect about cross-learning. Perhaps maybe Auntie Makitalena, would you like to talk to about just your view on the journal and the sharing of those stories?
Thank you. About the journal, it really, like before, when we have loaded with the work in a day, we never know how much work you have put on your shoulder from the morning till in the afternoon. Just because using of the journal, it helps us a lot to know how much work you have done in a day, and to know the data, and also what is happening in the community. It really helps a lot, and it can remind us what to do. Like before, we just, we walk on that place, we walk on that place, we do that and we do this, but it was not sensible because it was noted, it was not noted somewhere. And when it was noted, we came to know that we are very strong women. We have done a lot of job in a day. Rather than men, they just come out from the field, the farm. They said, oh, I have done a lot of job, but nothing. From the journal, when I learned the journal, I explain it first for my family. And sometimes I invite all the cane cutters in the afternoon, since I'm a multiracial too, the president of the multiracial group, I invite them. I share about this, how the work of the women and the men. And mostly they said, no. The man is the man. And I told them, yes, you are men, but the loading of work. So I went to my journal, I opened it up, and I showed them this is the time a woman woke up in the morning, a job. Like one woman from my group woke up in the morning, prepared everything to school. She went to Harvest Cane. Harvest Cane, when the truck is not ready, she went to catch some crab or fish. When she brought the fish and some uto break on the way, put it at her house, and when the truck comes at 3 or 3:30, went back again to the field. I hope that most of the family, they can see, they have seen her pictures, Anaite. She is from Ba, and married just close to my, and she's a member of my club. She has done a lot for the education without the low income in the community. So when we noted the work of a woman in a day, and we show it to them, they realized by this time, when they saw her, they said, oh, she's a strong woman. All the men will say, oh, she's a strong woman. See? They came to know how much we have done.
Thank you, Auntie Makitalena. And then, yes, there was a lot of discussion on that and the impact of that. And, you know, just what you said, Sapetha, it's about social media. The younger generation now, there's so much into social media that just that detailed prescriptive documentation, even of their daily lives, which also impacts their families and their communities, is barely there in a lot of scenes. We'll come now to Jay. Jay, you had a very interesting presentation yesterday, and your, you know, and the information sharing that you did, also the learning. What would be your takeaway from this national convening?
For me, the takeaway that I had from the past 3 days, firstly, the availability of a safe space for everyone to equally share their learnings and learn from each other and empowering one another, and that people were able to, able to share their different experiences openly into the space. And that's one of the strategy that I usually use with the work that I do with young people in Lambasa, ensuring that there's a safe space for them. Because when you talk about inclusiveness, it's not only to do with just bringing people in and part of a meeting or whatever it's going on. It's when you bring them in and for them to feel comfortable enough to share their opinion, to freely express their opinion. And that's one thing that I've noted on the past 3 days, that everyone just freely share their opinion and open to discussions, and that tends to empowering each other on the work that we do and the different experiences and the lived experiences by women that has been said. And also as a leader from grassroots communities, it's always best to listen. I've taught myself a lot to listen to. Mostly, these are some of the characteristics that I've always used to always listen, because the more you listen, you'll be able to deliver a good leadership skills, and you'll be able to collectively hear what's the impact and the objectives of what you're going to do. because you won't be able to address a issue or emotions with your teams when you don't really go down and listen to them. So I see that's one of the things. From the past days, I was just sitting down, listening and observing, which really somewhat empowers me as well. And also the day one, we were also talking about the radio clubs and how we can better produce good services to our community. It's for me as volunteer broadcasts, it's opened up my mind as well. It gives me a better idea on how better we can assist our community with the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Yes, you mentioned that very important discussion that we were having regarding the radio clubs. And again, that's all connected to amplifying our voices, the voices of rural women and so forth, but that having, just ensuring that we're really diverse about it and bringing in content that's reflective of younger diverse women. Now we'll just chat a bit more about the barriers that you would see with women in leadership. So perhaps we'll start with you, Jay. What would you consider as a barrier to women, moving further into leadership positions at the local level? If you would like to also talk about the national level, please share your thoughts.
For me, I would say that barrier, it's one of the major barrier for my own personal view, as a young person with disability, is lacking that confidence amongst themselves as an individual. Mostly, I think it's just because of lack of empowerment that resulted in them not really having that confidence of achieving what they are willing to work towards. Being a like I said, with a few organizations that I'm part of, it's not easy, but it's just if you are really committed to the work that we do, then you'll be able to pursue proper on what you are willing to achieve as a good leader. It's at some sense it's the mindset of the people, the way they see us of who we are, but they're not really realizing the ability that we have, that we are able to do some sort of work of leadership as others. But then, yes, that's always challenge us as an individual to always keep on moving forward, keep on doing what you do, because that will automatically itself change the mindset of the individual communities.
Thank you, Jay. There were also, we'll now move to Lina. There were also some comments even about challenges within the workplace and so forth, and there was a lot of discussion about attitudes. So Lina, what would be your thought on the barriers or even overcoming that?
As for me, I think, first of all, there should be a support. Mostly there's lack of support and when I say support, it means lack of support from home. Like most of the time we have seen that women are not being supported from their family first, like husband. They won't support if we want to study or if we want to walk. Like in the morning, one of our friends shared that. No, there was no support for her from her husband. So I think lack of support, and even in the community, we have seen that most of the time they don't support us women. Like if we are running a women's group, they will just, say, oh, they're just doing it to talk about others and all that. They won't support us women that, no, we are doing something good for ourselves. We are learning artworks in the women's group so that we can have some income generating in ourselves. So I think lack of support is the most common thing in us women, that we need support from family and in the community, that we should be having it.
Thank you, Lina. Bonita, would you like to just share your thought.
As for me, I think in order to grow a good leader, you need a right space. You need to provide that safe space, provide the resources, provide the information, the tools. All of these are essential in building up a women leader, in empowering these women. These are the capacity that we want to see when we see a developed leader. And I think the Honorable Minister is a witness and is a testimony of this. And maybe just providing that space for that particular woman to grow from wherever she is, to develop her knowledge, to develop her skills, and to one day represent the needs of other women. And to me, that is what's more meaningful to me when we talk about the challenges in empowering women.
Right, and we've now just ventured a bit more about possibilities with solutions and so forth. And there's also that discussion about women getting into leadership positions, but also the support to them while they're there, rather than the support is for them to get into that space, and then you sort of like look around and think, okay, they'll probably be fine, we'll just look at the others. But there's also that discussion about the support to current women that are in leadership positions, and you are all women that sit as leaders in your own communities and so forth. So now we'll just talk more about possible solutions, recommendations, and so forth. There were a lot of interesting perspectives that came on, and some of you have just touched on it also. Andy Kitaliana also spoke about men and boys. Just touched on it. There's also that issue about involving women, but let it not be tokenism, that they're playing a meaningful role, and it's meaningful inclusion in that. So perhaps we can start with Auntie Makitaliana. Perhaps just your thought on a possible solution or recommendation that you would have to increase women's representation in decision-making roles.
Thank you. In many ways, support is a big word to share it up. How they can be supported, which way you can support. It's like a barrier, a man and a woman, or us in a community, or us in a family. What you have to do that you can get them close to you. First of all, for the education, if we are well educated, more consultation, like we have here in Famling. In the most consultation we have, it taught us a lot. Especially in the multiracial community, the women are not allowed to come forward and talk in front. They are pushed back. So what I did, when I need them to come in my club, I have to go and accompany with the men, with a bowl of grog, and we talk. I want to contact with the wife. When I shared it to the husband, and the husband know that this is something, this is something that I have to allow my wife to go with her. So by sharing with the husband of the family, for each family, and they opened the door for the wife to come. So I did that, and it was successful. For my members, I always shared, and all San and Fanny, or those who are in the room, they know my stories. When most of the members are in class 3, class 4, they hardly speak in English. So by coming to the consultation, they can speak fluent English right now. Some are working right now. And I salute one solution is that from this platform. And another one, for the day we came here, the first day, what I learned, and the second day, it was a very strong information coming out from the women. And some of the women, about the violence, it triggered them what had happened for the past, that it happenedly, it was a very strong information was happening in this room. So something was done here, they share, and the healing process was occur at the same time. That is something, I come back again to this table, the second healing of the solution I want to mention. And another one, what I've seen, the two ministers were coming here in this room. I think I have mentioned the second day of our consultation here. It happened like that, to be a leader that can come down to that level. To come down and as you are, then you can be a good leader. It shows us three solutions. That's the solution I want to share today, that not only in this room, I have to share in all the places where man is. When you are leading, the title is there, you must always come down in a level that you can know to become in a family, and you can get more things and grow. Like another solution I want to say, sorry I'm taking a lot of time. When we are going fishing, you want to catch a fish, it's very hard if you don't have a tools. So you must know the environment and must know your tools you take to the sea, and you must know the time, the tide on and off, and you can catch the fish. So you must have the tools also when you go to the community or to your family to get your husband to know what you want. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Auntie Makitalena. So, some of the points that Auntie Makitalena raised was about involving men, husbands, partners, and so forth into spaces. And some particular examples that came out was also perhaps including them in some of our convenings and so forth. And then you also touched on characteristics that you saw that a strong leader or quality leader really should have, and one of that stood out for you was accessibility and so forth. We'll just ask Sapedi to just share her thought.
I think that inclusiveness, a recommendation would be to have inclusiveness of diverse women in this platform and spaces, so that we are able to learn and also be empowered.
Thank you, Sapedi. Yeah. And then it goes again about what the Women's Network tries to do, that information sharing, information is power, and so forth. We'll just ask Lina perhaps to offer your recommendation that you touched earlier about barriers, and you touched a bit about possible solutions. What do you think could be something that could be taken further?
I think for me, I will say that we women should not be depending on others. We always should be independent and not depending on ourselves, that we can do whatever we want. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. Yes, and some of your network members from Central Division basically shared a lot of powerful stories about older women, about what they've done or what they've reached and so forth. So that sharing with you, I guess, would have had such an impact. It did also on me and to others in the room. And we're talking about women in leadership and so forth. Bonita, we're talking about also some of the commitments that government has, that also civil society has on an international level, on a national level. Would you like just to share a bit of that?
Thank you. Well, when the minister, the Honorable Meriseni Vuniwaga, when she came on the first day to open the consultation, something that she mentioned was the collaboration work between government and non-government organizations, civil society organizations such as us. And this is crucial. This work regarding gender-based violence, violence against women, the work around amplifying voices of women is a work that needs collaboration. And I think when we talk about collaboration, it means government working with NGOs, NGOs working with government. It can also mean government correcting NGOs, NGOs correcting government. It's just simply bridging the gap, mending the potholes, and creating that safe space, that road on where we want to channel ourselves to. And part of that is just reminding each other on the commitment to our constitution, to the Beijing Platform of Action, to the gender policies. We have the language, the voices of women have been amplified, and these are the outcomes. Maybe the question is where to from here, and where do we need to strengthen, maybe streamline some other work. And this is the conversation that we are bringing in from the ground as a recommendation to strengthen the work from top to bottom and bottom to top with regards to gender-based violence, information sharing, women in leadership, you name it. It can be cross-cutting, and that represents everyone, and leaving no one behind, and not forgetting the fact that we are causing no one harm. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonita. Yes, aptly put. It's all about leaving no one behind, and this is the 2030 agenda and so forth. And it's cross-cutting, and the Minister for Women made that announcement in this room about collaborating with civil society, getting your thoughts on the national domestic violence strategy. So that is really, really vital, and and we've shared our appreciation to government in that respect, and we will take up that offer. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining me on this special episode of Radio with Pictures in the Field. If you're in Suva or in Lambasa, tune into FemTalk 89 FM for more of these conversations. You can also visit Family Pacific SoundCloud page for podcasts. Thank you, viewers, for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.